Good day. Welcome to another episode of Presentation How. I am AlexAnndra Ontra, your host for the day. And today we have with us Tanja Zaric from Medline, and we will be talking about the culture of presentation management. Tanya, thanks for coming. So happy to
Thank
see
you.
you or hear you since we are on a podcast. Um, so you are responsible for presentations at Medline.
I am. And just to give you some background on who Medline is, we are a medical supply manufacturer and distributor and a solutions partner focused on improving the overall operating performance in healthcare. So whether you're a small physician office and you just need some materials or supplies for your physician office, or you have an entire hospital network, our company has everything to enhance operations for medical offices and hospital networks.
So essentially, if you've ever been to a doctor's office, which I think most of us have, or a hospital, there's like a 90% chance that the needle that they give you a shot with, the Band-Aid they give you, the crutches, the examination table, and all that other equipment is provided by Medline. You guys are like one of the largest medical supplies providers in the world, correct?
Yes, we are. And we also manufacture products. So we have both, the capability to manufacture our products. We have 28 million square feet of distribution throughout the United States. And we have
28
everything.
million square feet of
Yes,
distribution. Sorry, that was just like that is a huge number. That's a lot of feet.
it is. And it's a lot of products, 300,000 or more actually at this point of products. So,
Over
uh,
300,000 individual SKUs.
correct.
That's huge.
It is.
And then you have how many salespeople selling and moving that product?
Um, Over 2,300. So,
So it's a big feat. Managing presentations for a group that size is a gargantuan task to keep them all on brand, to keep them all organized, to keep them.
well, mhm. Go ahead. No, I was going to say it was more of a gargantuan task before we implemented Shufflrr. Um, but to your point, yes, because we have presentations on every aspect of Medline, whether you're telling the Medline story that is chock full of facts and stats that can be fluid, and a lot of presentations on product and also our services, what we offer. So it can be an overwhelming task.
So you have presentations on product, on services, and what was that third one?
Capabilities,
Capabilities.
our infrastructure, our supply
Infrastructure.
chain. Yes.
Okay. And you're the senior content marketing manager, and you kind of evolved into this role. So can you kind of talk about that journey from, I know you've been using a Shufflrr presentation library, I think since 2019 is
Yes.
when, we met you way back in the day, and you sort of evolved into it. So can you maybe give some insight into that journey from like where you started when you had that aha moment of, we really need to organize these presentations differently, and if you can, walk us through what that was like and how you came across that.
Absolutely. So our marketing team was very aware that the sales reps really needed a central resource to find fully approved branded presentations. And in doing some research, we realized that our intranet wasn't the optimal space for that. First, the reps were not always 100% certain that they had the latest and greatest information. We didn't want them to find many different versions of the presentations. Maybe they weren't all in the Medline brand, or reps were spending exorbitant amounts of time, building their own presentations. And then obviously we're in a very highly regulated industry. So not only do we have the challenge of being on brand and having professional and even some bespoke presentations, but we have to make sure that our regulatory affairs group has approved every T is crossed, every I is dotted. So that takes some time as well. So, in finding Shufflrr, we felt this was the perfect opportunity to offer that central resource of these fully vetted presentations. And the added bonus is that reps could just pick and choose the slides they need. The story has already been blessed by sales, marketing, and regulatory affairs, and build these really impactful, professional, beautiful presentations in just minutes. Whereas before, and we did survey this. We asked reps, how long does it usually take you to put a presentation together? And it really ran the gamut. Some reps said, it could take a few hours. Some said it could take a few days. So knowing that they can do this now in just a matter of minutes and focus on what they do best, which is sell. We don't want them spending time building these presentations. That was, it was a no-brainer at that point that this was the perfect solution for that.
So you're saying that your team needed a repository for branded, up-to-date materials where they could actually find what they were looking for, and the internet was just a little too messy to organize that kind of content and give them a structure, like
Exactly.
a story structure.
Exactly. Where, if you've ever used a traditional intranet, uh, you're going to find, you can potentially find many different versions of the same presentation. And this brought it all together. You have one single source of truth, and you can have the confidence that you're using something that, you're consistently telling the story across the entire enterprise. Because part of this job is to really ensure that whatever finance is reporting, whatever real estate is reporting, everything is aligned. So those are the nooks and crannies. Like that's the facts about Medline. So there's that piece of it, and there's also the other piece about ensuring that it's on brand, and is this product, is all the information about our product and offerings approved by regulatory, and are we ready to present this to customers? So this tool brought all of that together, and reps are, now it's just second nature. They just go in and they build their presentations and sell.
So it's one single source of truth where you can tell a consistent story across the enterprise is the ultimate value equation there. Um, so let's
Yes.
talk. So let's talk a minute, because it's you built out the enterprise story for Medline,
Mhm.
and you organized everything. You created chapters and by category, by SKU, by product, by, like you said, service. Can you kind of, since you've been through the process, um, give us a sense like how you did it and what your methodology was and what your thought process was, and if you could kind of elaborate on that.
So it's a great question because it's still applicable to what I'm doing now. And that is really identifying how do our sales teams talk about products? How do they identify, how would they categorize, um, the materials that they're looking for? So I wanted to replicate that on what we call our Medline presentation library, Shufflrr, to ensure, number one, that the user experience was easy. If they know, a certain nomenclature, they're going to have, the folders will be named exactly that, and they will be divided into those, as you said, like a book with chapters. So for instance, for when you're talking about Medline as a whole, you know immediately just to go to the Medline capabilities, and there you have, as I mentioned, like that's infrastructure. That's really what sets us apart from our competitors. That's the Medline story. If you're looking for product, we have over 25 divisions. So we just go into the divisions, and it's just organized numerically by the division number and division name. And that's where you would find product. So it's really replicating the experience that reps would be most familiar with. So it was learning the nomenclature. How do they refer to, Medline capabilities? Is it our infrastructure? Just understanding what would resonate with the teams that are most going to be using this library. and then dividing it down, as you had mentioned, chapters, our divisions, over 25 divisions, that, it was very easy just to organize numerically and by name of the division, and people know that's where you're going to find product information. And then we have sales segments, which are, again, organized by the name of the segment and then all the supporting materials within that folder.
And that's a really good point. As a marketer, and as marketers, we tend to wear our marketing hat. But what you did when you built this library out, is you put your sales hat on and you approached it from the point of view of a salesperson. And how would a salesperson find this content? And how would a salesperson look for this content, as opposed to the marketing brand steward that marketing managers tend to be. That's what we think about as marketers. That's where our head is at.
And you're absolutely correct. And why that's so important, and something that I'm going to be focusing now in the next few months, is maybe even doing a ride along with a sales rep to see how do they use our material, what material could better, I'm not going to speak to the best way to present a sales presentation. That's not my job, but my job is to ensure that our sales reps have the materials to work with. And sometimes there is that disconnect between marketing and sales. Marketers, we're the creative ones. We really want to deliver that message in a beautiful way, meaning, aesthetically beautiful. And then we have our writers who are very strategic and so on. But then when it gets down to the rep, presenting that, I'm very interested to know what they do. How do they convey that message? What pieces of it are they taking, and what resonates with the customers? So thus far, it's been very anecdotal, but in the next few months, I'm really going to start being more entrenched with sales, so that it's like marrying sales and marketing to say, it's not a one-way street. Marketing isn't going to be prescriptive and say, you have to say it this way. We're going to give this to you, but I'd also like to know, tell us what you need, and that's one of the best parts of the job, is to really get out there and hear from reps. We want more of this and we need more of this.
And that's the balancing act, between sales and marketing, especially like B2B sales and marketing. And I think a lot of companies struggle with this. Is, the marketers are like, here's a beautiful presentation. Here's the brand. Here's the logo. Here's the colors and the fonts, and it's elegant and it's articulate and it's on brand and it's on message. And they're here and they're pushing out content. And then the salespeople, they're on the front line,
Mm-hmm.
and they have a number over their head usually. And if a salesperson makes their number or exceeds their number, nobody's going to go to them, well, your presentations, you had the wrong font and it was off
Right.
brand. And if they don't make their number, they're going to be like, but I used the presentation. Like, nobody cares. And the thing with the salesperson is they are on the front end. They know the customer personally. They have those conversations. So they know the nuances and, what that customer really needs. And even though it's the same products, it's never one size fits all. It's never one size fits all. And it's the salesperson's job to, build that relationship, understand those needs, and deliver. So they need that flexibility in their presentations, in their marketing materials, to kind of customize it and tweak it, and, speak in their customer's language, so to speak, to make it relevant for them. At the same time, our friends in marketing, they need to manage the brand. So it's a teeter-totter. And the nice thing about, a presentation library, a slide library, is that you balance both, because you're giving them all of these slides and all of these materials, and then they can kind of mix and match and drag and drop and put them together and put their own customizations on there that will be relevant, for their next meeting, for their next customer meeting.
Exactly. And you hit on something about, the sales reps have a number over their head. And one of the things and that's very true, very different, mentality than marketing, where we do have a number over our head, but we're looking at it from a different lens. Uh, but for those purposes, and this is something that, again, it's being more a partner with sales. I'd like to offer the sales team, you know, above and beyond what we have on the library. If they are incentivized to sell certain products or services, just have a space where they can come immediately to that area and grab what they need because they know those are going to drive their numbers. And that's what I'm starting to hear more and more in conversations is that, you know, we have an amazing collection of materials, but there's still room, which surprises me after doing this for 5 years. It's still evolving that there's even more new materials we can add. There's more functionality we can share. I saw, you know, there's Shufflrr's always evolving too, which is great. We've been together, and I've said it's kind of like a small family here that, you know, we've worked together. I started at Medline 5 years ago, and this was my baby from the beginning. So, not to go into all of that, but there's still opportunities to expand our offerings and support our sales teams, which is amazing, and it's fun, and it's surprising to me. I honestly didn't think it would be
Well,
after all these years.
your business, any business, is always evolving. I mean, you have to grow, you have to evolve, otherwise you die. That's in business, in life, in general. Um, and that you're applying that to the slide library, and you're in there almost every day, changing, updating, adding, and deleting, what's no longer
Mhm.
relevant. So it just keeps it's almost like it's an ecosystem. It's an ecosystem of slides.
It is. And you also mentioned about, you know, updating, editing. Um, that's something that by default, I've kind of become the keeper of a lot of these Medline stats and facts. I just review them quarterly, and the tool has just enabled me to make changes um, in one space. And that content management piece is amazing, but it's also becoming a resource for people to look for, you know, what is the current Medline, you know, how many distribution centers do we have, how many, you know, Medtrans, which is our the vans and trucks you see delivering product. Those numbers are all up to date in this platform, and it also serves as a reference for people, even non-sales people are using this platform for that.
So it sounds like it's becoming a default content management system. It's not just for presentations anymore.
It is it is in many ways. I mean, we do obviously manage that content in other departments. You know, finance and real estate being the two that I really work with the most, but also our ESG team. You know, we all have to be aligned. But yes, this has become a by default a content management system for those that are using it. Yeah.
And just for clarification, what does ESG stand for?
Environmental, social, and governance.
Oh, right. Yep.
So they are a
Sustainability.
keeper of, yeah, they maintain a lot of that Medline information as
That's
well.
the Be a Good Corporate Citizen group
Yes.
that everybody has. Yep. Awesome. So, if you would, can you give us a little bit about your background and how you came to Medline and how you
Sure.
came into this role?
So my background is mainly in website content management. I was part of the first Walgreens.com e-commerce team that launched, I'm going to date myself here, but many, many, many years ago. And I also worked for one of the top real estate investment trusts for many years, managing their corporate website. So that was their B2B website. And I think just it was a natural evolution into content management. And this, you know, so unexpected because you know, throughout my career, I didn't really work with presentations. I didn't really think about them that much because I didn't need to in the work that I was doing. And then when I joined Medline, uh, you know, identifying the need for this tool and then being able to own it was very exciting. Just because it was a new technology and rolling it out, all the planning, working with the sales teams, it was just um, something that I think was just a natural progression in my career because it also integrates training, which I do a lot of training with the sales teams on the platform, and really brainstorming how can this platform be optimized. And that's where I'm, just ever evolving and always keeping me busy.
Yeah, well, I think, presentation management is part of content management.
Mhm.
And as we all become, like more digital savvy, and we rely on our phones all the time. They're always with us. And now the days when we speak, if we're talking in business or just talking to a friend, I would say like 8 times out of 10 we pull up our phone and we show a picture. It's like, "Oh, I was on vacation. Here's a picture of the beach,"
Mhm.
or it just into our natural diction. And having a presentation library where all files are slides ready to present. It's a slide library. You can do that for business. You can, equip your 2,000, 3,000 plus salespeople to do that on demand, but they're showing, approved, FDA approved, regulated slides that are branded when they're talking about, your business products.
Exactly.
And that's the value there. So what would you say now? I was, the results are. I think you said something about, it was taking them hours and days to put a presentation together, and now with this Shufflrr library.
Yes, it has just um, the efficiency has increased. I mean, the feedback that we've gotten by and large is that where was this tool all these years ago? How come we didn't have this before? It's really cut down on the amount of time to pull these beautiful presentations together. And as I said, right now it's anecdotal, but um, I have talked to reps who have closed deals and really been so grateful that they had this information and it was so easy for them to pull it together. What I'd like to see in the future is, a way for us to really, and this is always in marketing the challenge, how did we affect the bottom line? And anecdotes are not going to address that, but I hope in the future to be able to really quantify that and prove that, this tool is in fact making the company enhancing the bottom line.
Today's podcast is brought to you by Shufflrr. Shufflrr is AI presentations for your enterprise. Smart presentations start with a slide library. With Shufflrr, you can create faster, smarter, compliant presentations. Shufflrr is presentation management. So, Tanya, if you can, I'd like to talk a little bit about the compliance aspect of it in the, medical device industry, in medical healthcare. Compliance is a huge issue, having everything accurate, what you say it, how you train people. If done wrong, at at worst, you get fined by the FDA. Oh, hang on. If if not presented properly, if not spoken to properly, you could risk, a fine from the FDA. But in your business, it also affects people's lives. So when you talk about having a slide library of training materials and, sales materials and product information, the compliance aspect, how do you keep it up to date, compliant,
So
and make
this is,
sure that it is, the latest and greatest and approved information that is actually the rep is getting.
yes, it's a very significant piece of why we have this library. On an annual basis, I will review the presentations with the content owners, and that could be a clinician. For instance, you referenced teaching materials, and the clinicians review them, and then I route them directly to regulatory affairs to make sure that any claims, um, anything that we're stating that is in the needs to be reviewed is reviewed and blessed. And also, the clinicians work directly with a medical affairs team to get approvals on their end, because specifically when it comes to teaching, you're going a little bit beyond just product claims. So those are reviewed by our medical affairs team, and nothing is posted on the presentation library unless it has that approval.
So we go through a workflow approval process.
Mhm.
The content goes starts with the clinician, then it goes to the regulator, then it goes to the medical affairs, and then once it meets all that approval, it gets published for use by the rest of the company.
Correct. And in some of those cases, those training materials, which is another great thing about Shufflrr, they are stored in folders that only have specific permissions assigned.
So that's
So,
another piece of compliance is access and controlled permissions. You
correct.
only get to present what you are qualified to present. And
Exactly.
you won't be distracted. So on the one hand, it keeps Medline on the up and up and compliant with all their regulatory requirements. And then from an end user perspective, they don't have to go weeding through a bunch of stuff that has absolutely no relevance to their job. It's just
Correct.
right there for them. They are directed to the information, to the content that is published for them.
Yes. And that is something that I know our users appreciate that when they log on. For instance, we're onboarding now our global teams, and a user or a sales rep, in Wichita, Kansas doesn't necessarily need to know what they're selling and how they're selling it in Paris or wherever we are at it's not relevant. And the fact that you can really create a bespoke experience for a user is really something to be said when we have over 2,500 users of this platform. But that is part of the regulatory piece. That's also part of the user experience that they can find what they need quickly. Bottom line is that it's definitely increased efficiencies. Um, it's helped us to stay on brand and consistently communicate about Medline, our products, our offerings, and capabilities.
So, culture of presentation management, businesses evolve every day. The message evolves every day. The brand evolves a little bit every day. The culture of presentation management follows and keeps up with the culture and evolution of your brand, of your product, of your offering. And what a presentation library lets your people do is keep up with that brand evolution so that they are always up to date, current, accurate when they're representing Medline to your customers.
Well, yes, because they probably they hear about our brand, and I don't know that how eager salespeople are to learn all of that, but
They
it
don't care
makes
about
them
the brand,
easy.
they care about their sales.
It makes it easy for them to integrate that message into their sales pitches, and they're more in touch with it because they have this resource. Versus if we were just uploading materials to an intranet, that really probably wouldn't resonate as much as going to a system where you can see everything and build your own presentation, and it's one central source of truth.
A culture of presentation management makes it easy for everyone to incorporate the brand and message into their day to day presentations.
I think I'm interviewing you.
It's a dialogue, it's
Yes.
discourse. Excellent. Well, Tanja, thank you very much for joining us. Everyone, that was Tanja Zaric from Medline.
Thank you so much.